In this chapter of Versus, Demon Lord Jachi goes head-to-head against the robots. It all began in the ruins of the Mecha Ordinance zone. Naver, a bipedal robot, was hovering above a swarm of hunter drones as they faced a single demon. Jachi, the 11th Demon Lord, looked up at them. The robot concluded that the target's danger level was a mere 10 before commencing its extermination. There was a sudden crash within the mechanical domain. Jachi strode forward amidst the rubble, and he did this while holding onto the barely functioning head of the intercepting clanker. Treating it like a donut, Jachi took a bite and gave it a good chew. He spat the trash out after confirming that these things were not alive. And strangely, they also didn't seem to be running on mana, so he wondered what they were. Meanwhile, the robots were all barking at him to get off their lawn, claiming that the area was off limits. And this is the first time we've heard something like that from them. Instead of obliging, the Demon Lord gave them one more chance to tell him what they are. But the robots were still telling him to screw off. Jachi reeled back a clenched fist in acceptance of their response. He swung it, and the resulting air pressure created a path through them. The demon leisurely strode along it. A red dot appeared and moved. It landed just above the third eye of an incredulous Jachi. He was suddenly struck by a laser beam mid-stride. Jachi's head smoldered. His opposition was ramping up. The basic hunter drones tend to be based on dogs, but here we have tortoise bots as heavy artillery. They're kind of like a fusion between Blastoise and Torterra for me. More blasters locked onto Jachi's body and prepared to strike. They all shot him with perfect precision and synchronicity. The fallout was extreme. The target location was smoldering, but even so, Jachi didn't stop walking for even a second. The hive mind assessed that the intruder was completely unharmed. To deal with such an incalculable threat, it needed to reevaluate its leveling standards. So the rapid learner opted to gather intelligence. Several rockets emerged and were launched by the metal tortoises. Countless smiling fish missiles were flying through the air, and they were definitely larger than the ones that were used against Kiva. They all routed themselves in Jachi's direction. The Demon Lord clenched his fist yet again. He punched in their direction. This happened more than a dozen times in less than a second. Each concentrated propulsion of force collided with an oncoming projectile, and as they blew up, the 11th Demon Lord continued to walk. The robots weren't taking this threat lightly at all. Artillery limitations were swiftly lifted, and the fact that they have limitations at all is interesting. This could mean that the robots are very conservative when it comes to the use of resources. After all, extreme technological advancement and industries tend to put a strain on the environment. With that in mind, I can imagine them extracting the natural resources from Gaia's wrath. Even with the dangerous spread of the parasites, that sort of thing shouldn't be an issue for the robots at all. Jachi was ceaselessly bombarded. There was an emergency deployment of humanoid robots. And again, just one of these things can repel human spells and even kill neo-humans with ease. They all raced to intercept the threat. Jachi scoffed and withstood it all without so much as a blink. He walked through their endless assault while lamenting the foolishness of all who think they can stop him. Jachi moved faster than any of them could detect, shifting directions like a reverse bolt of lightning. As they picked on the possession of abnormal thrusters, they were dismantled. Wi-Fi punches were sent to each and every one of them. Jachi moved, punched, and spun amidst them all. The mighty demon emerged on the other side of destruction, with nary a scratch on him. The entire assembled armada was decimated in the space of a single leap. Jachi hovered in the air and caught a glimpse of where the metal things were coming from. The 5th robot factory. Jachi wasn't fond of enemies that wouldn't listen, as of course a fiend would crave a bit of conversation to go with their torment. But although they weren't a threat for him, Jachi was wise enough to know that they should be totally eradicated either way. Before he died, Kiva reported the danger of the metal insects to Jachi. When the two sides clashed, they were pretty evenly matched. But that was a demon executive and a bunch of foot soldiers against a single ringhead with a few hundred drones. Even if a demon lord like Jachi can wipe out tons of the ringheads without trying, in a battle of attrition against the robots, they just wouldn't stand a chance. As Jachi commenced his assault on the production site, a blubbering voice created a mental link between them. The 19th demon lord, Nudo, apologized for reaching out while Jachi was busy. But he really wanted to share two interesting bits of information. Firstly, Diganazal, the 23rd demon lord, was dead. Nudo explained that she was defeated by the chief of the Titans, Ginbok. Diganazal used her trump card, Chimera Suit Burst, and was still no match for the strongest Titan. Diganazal didn't stand a chance from the very beginning. This was a level of power that the demon lords had never seen before. And by using his crystal balls, Nudo was able to witness it all. He wondered if Jachi would have died instead if he hadn't used teleportation magic on the Titans. So he looked forward to hearing his fellow demon lord lovingly express his gratitude. Jachi vs Ginbok was epic. Jachi surprisingly withstood Ginbok's first punch and stopped himself from blasting off. But when he struck back, to the big man, it felt like a mosquito bite. When Ginbok decided to pack more of a punch, Jachi was blown away and lost control of his flying magic. He was sent through an entire building and was bleeding. Without hesitation, Jachi entered his release power form. And although Ginbok clearly recognized the demon's strength, he still criticized Jachi's speed. Nudo cast his long-distance teleportation on the enemies while Jachi cut the distance. Because the enemy's strength was unknown, Nudo didn't want to lose a demon lord that he's fond of. So he sent them to a demon lord he had a grudge against. If Diganazal would have won, it would have been a big win for the demons. But even though she lost, it was still a personal victory for Nudo. But instead of expressing any gratitude, Jachi wanted Ginbok's current location. He was unfazed by the robots and was ready to put the Titan down himself. Unfortunately for him, Nudo wasn't sure. He could only observe the 47 demon lords and their surroundings. With how willing Nudo was to sacrifice a fellow demon lord for the sake of preserving another one, this divination ability is pretty scary, especially with how demented he is. We were introduced to this guy while he was in the midst of a chess game where he used actual humans as the pieces. So while Jachi is incredibly straightforward, Nudo is crafty and tactical. As for Ginbok's location, not even the Titans know. At the very least, they're probably somewhere in demon territory. Nudo reminded Jachi that he's supposed to be chasing after his runaway hero. Not that he himself really understood the fascination. To be fair, his never showed up. He insisted that Jachi should quit while he's still ahead. In the face of all this, Jachi continued to be blunt. He suspects that Nudo knows something important and is keeping it as a secret. The blobfish demon played coy with a grin on his face. Jachi made it clear that he doesn't care either way. He knows that Nudo only sees him and the other demon lords as tools to help him learn more about their enemies. Nudo is delighted by torment, so the growing scarcity of humans to play around with was a big problem for him. So with so many new options, there was a lot for him to figure out. Jachi decided that he wouldn't oppose the schemer as long as their interests lined up. But he also warned Nudo not to get carried away. Nudo continued to play coy and regarded himself as a lowly informant. From there, he moved on to the second thing he wanted to say. This bit was more pressing since it was related to the things that Jachi is fighting. The robots. We're briefly taken to the stronghold of the 38th Demon Lord. Hordes of humanoid roaches and robots were fighting one another. Roya Roach was facing off against a robotic armada too. Although, at least for now, Roya hasn't gotten directly involved. Nudo continued to say that something very interesting happened there. But without a response, he wondered if Jachi was even listening. He called out to the 11th Lord as he infiltrated the compound. Something was off. The robots weren't attacking him anymore. New drones appeared, but they seemed to be focused on observation instead of assault. They were rapidly analyzing Jachi. The demon lashed out with a simple finger attack when he realized that they were just watching him. Based on Roya Roach's battle, Nudo figured that the robots can analyze and learn very quickly. They took his light beam attack into account and uploaded the calculations. Nudo added that although each robot was weak on their own, their shared experience, records, and analysis made them quite dangerous. He hoped that Jachi understood the implication. Although it wasn't a major concern, he figured it was worth knowing. But Jachi just told Nudo to pipe down, because something had appeared. It was a robot model that we've never seen before. The screen-faced defender lit up at the sight of its target. Versus over 10, battle mode was activated. Jachi's reassessed threat level was estimated to be 132, which is 22 times higher than Kiva's threat level of 6, and is far higher than the initial assessment of 10. So, at least for now, the robots seem to lack the necessary reference data to make accurate assessments of unfamiliar power sources. Nudo recognized this to be the special unit he was worried about. He strongly insisted that Jachi avoid fighting it. He even repeated himself. But in the midst of his third warning, Jachi had already broken it. When he asked Nudo to repeat whatever he was saying, the demon fish could only slap his forehead. Now, for as one-sided as this assault has been thus far, Jachi hasn't accomplished much at all. The robots can replenish their numbers faster than virtually any other natural enemy. This is also just their 5th production site. By virtue of being so advanced, there is no doubt that the Hive can communicate across vast distances. Even if this entire facility is destroyed, I have no doubt that the data they'll be able to gain against Jachi will be more than worth the cost. The robots went from developing anti-mana ringheads to using them for large-scale raids and emergency dispatch in a very short period of time. They have adapted to their new circumstances far faster and far more efficiently than most others. Jachi is extremely confident, and is likely to be humbled a bit before he finally meets Hollow again. And although Jachi broke that specialized learner bot, he's still not even trying here. And even beyond that, there is still his released form. And since we didn't get to see it against Ginbok, the threat will need to be worth getting serious against for Jachi to do so. And not even a full power Madalan could provoke him that much. I can't imagine that getting to the level of intergalactic alien technology would happen so suddenly. It's more like giving the robots any sort of power-up only makes the problem worse, especially if they are fighting your forces elsewhere and can make use of the adaptations you force upon them. But there's also the fact that Jachi is still wearing his cape, and we know that it's meant to consume and hold back his true power. Because even when he is too far to be seen, Jachi's unrestricted aura is menacing enough to make Titans unable to breathe. That said, this probably wouldn't have any effect on the robots. But even if they could only replicate an inferior version, that would still be a huge upgrade. This chapter showed us true aura farming. But in the long run, I'm willing to bet that the robots will be the ones to reap the benefits. Some of you guys have been waiting for us to cover verses for a while now, so thank you for your patience, and I hope you look forward to more. As always, I'm Slice of Otaku. Thank you all so much for watching and have an awesome day. I love you.